Adobe Bridge has many capabilities, but one of the most logical uses is to help you keep your files organized. So you see I have Adobe Bridge opened, and the first thing I want to make clear to you is that Adobe Bridge works just like your directory system. A lot of people ask me, how do you get your images and your files into that content pane in the middle? Well, that's simply by you using the Folders tab. You can navigate through your system just like you would if you chose File Open, and you can navigate down. You'll see that I have located on my desktop a folder called Project Files, PSCS4 Advanced, and I've just simply opened up the Chapter 02 folder. You'll notice I can go to Chapter 03 and new thumbnails appear. I'll return back to Chapter 02. Now, in this content pane, you'll see that, of course, I do have PSD images. I also have AI images. I also have an InDesign file. So I, of course, am seeing multiple different file formats. I can see movies, I can see PDFs, and more. Now, as far as keeping myself organized, you'll see that I have just the thumbnail view here. I am in the Essentials workspace, but I can change this by going down to the lower right and choosing to click to Thumbnail Grid, or it can go back to my thumbnail view. I can also view my content as text. So I'm looking at the metadata here. I can see information such as the file size, the color profile, who created it, whether it's copyrighted, and then I can also view multiple files quickly by changing this to the list view, which is the last icon down in the lower right. Now, continuing on with this, I'm going to return back to my original workspace by choosing Window Workspace. You'll see that there are additional workspaces available here for you if you want to see keywords or preview or light table or just the folders. I'm just choosing that I want the workspace to be reset back to the way it was when I originally launched it. Now, a couple other things here that I want to make clear. As I am working in Adobe Bridge, I am seeing a thumbnail and I am also seeing the name of the file. I can click on the file name and I can change it directly in Bridge if I want, so I can give it a more appropriate name. I can also take my files, and by clicking on the Folder tab, I can even move them to different folders. Another helpful feature is that I can select an image. Perhaps I don't really like this image, it's a little too dark. I can press Alt-Delete or Option-Delete and reject that file. I can also put additional ratings on other files, like for instance, maybe I like this file. Control 5 or Command 5 if I were on the Macintosh. I can click on this image and choose, yep, I like this one too, but this one is okay, so I am going to press Control 3 or Command 3. So I'm ranking these images so that if I have a photo shoot, I can quickly organize these images so that I can see them a little better. Now notice that under View, I can choose to sort these images many different ways. I can choose by type, date created, size, resolution, or even by my rating. So if I choose Sort Rating, you'll notice that my ratings right now they look a little backwards. My high ratings are on the bottom, but notice up here in the upper right of the control panel in Adobe Bridge, I can change the order to ascending or descending order, and now all my favorite images are up at the top. Now, as far as organizing a little bit more, these images are all relatively similar. Maybe I have 17 images of blue sweaters that I want to organize, but I don't want to see them taking up all my space in the content window. I've selected all three of these images by clicking on the first image and shift-clicking on the last image. Now I can do one of two things. I can right-click and choose that I want to stack or group as stack these images. And if you're on the Mac and you don't have a right-clicking mouse, you can also choose Stack, Group as Stack from the menu item at the top. This puts all these images in a consolidated view. I still see that there are three images together, but I can click on this three to open these up at any time. So making it a little bit easier for you to see your images. Now, next thing I want to show to you is something that's extremely helpful, and that's taking advantage of the Favorites tab. If I click on the Favorites tab, there are some default favorites that are included in here. But what I find really helpful about the Favorites tab is that it allows me to create quick and easy shortcuts or aliases to folders that I use often. Let's say that you work at a company where all of your logos are stored in a server, maybe 10 folders deep. And then maybe your images are stored in another folder and your InDesign files are stored in another folder. Wouldn't it be great if you could put them all together and access them from one panel? You'll notice that I'm clicking back on my Project Files folder and I can see all my chapter files. I'm going to change the sorting. And you'll notice I just clicked on the ascending order so that I can see Chapter 1 at the top and Chapter 11 at the bottom now. But I'm going to take Chapter 2 and drag it over to my Favorites tab. And you'll notice that it gets added to my favorites. Now the great thing about this, perhaps you have a logo folder that is nested within 10 other folders. You can drag that logo folder into your Favorites tab, and anytime you want to access files within that logo folder, you can just click on it in the Favorites tab and all the images appear. So no more hunting and searching through your file system in order to find the logos that you need. Now understand that this is just creating a shortcut or an alias to that particular folder. It's not really moving it any place. Another additional feature that works the same way is the Collections feature. And when I click on the Collections tab, you'll notice I don't have any collections right now, but I can create a folder. The folder can include a bunch of shortcuts or aliases to files that I'm going to use on a project. So let's say, for instance, that I'm creating a project. It's an InDesign file, and it's all related to guitars. Okay, so I clicked on a new collection. My content pane is empty because there's nothing that's been added to this. I can go up to the top of the control panel and choose to go back to the last folder I was in. This is nothing to do with hierarchy. This will just take me back to my Chapter 02 folder because that was the last folder I was in. Now here's how this Collections tab works. I can take images that I want to use in a particular project and drag them into the collection. Now the really great thing about this is that my files are not moving. They are still all located in the Chapter 02 folder, but there are shortcuts or aliases put in Adobe Bridge in this Collections folder. So when I click on guitars, you'll see I can access all of my files if I want to. Now the great thing is I can also right-click on these and I can remove them from the collection or reveal them in Explorer if I need them later. But also the really helpful thing is, again, going back to that example, you have logos in one folder, you have InDesign files in another, you have images in another folder. Put them all together here in Adobe Bridge, and then you can easily access them as you're working in them. Now I'm going to return back to my Chapter 2 folder by clicking on the favorite in my Favorites tab for Chapter 2. Now continuing on with this, let's say that I want to create a new folder to store things in. Not only can I drag images or files from one folder to another in here, I can also choose File, New Folder directly in Bridge, and I'm going to create a folder that we're going to use later, Websites. And if I wanted to, I could just simply drag my files in here at this point. Next thing I'm going to do is show you how you can quickly and easily review your files as well. I'm going to select them all. I'm choosing View, Review Mode. And you'll see 14 items selected. I can click on the items. I can click on them to move them forward. I can drag them. I can even deselect the items directly in the review mode. But if you're trying to find a quick, easy way to open up your images and perhaps show them to somebody else and say, what do you think of this image here? Bringing it forward, or this image. You can easily bring your files forward, pull the other ones out, deselect them. To get out of the review mode, you can press the ESC or Escape key, and it returns you back to the basic essential view. Now, just a couple more things and we'll be done with showing you how you can take advantage of Adobe Bridge for file organization. I'm going to click off so that none of my images are selected. I'm also selecting my collection, and I am choosing Stacks, Ungroup from Stack, just to put this back to the way it was. You'll notice that down in the lower right, there are a couple controls to help you to see your files a little better. One is a scale tool. You can see I'm clicking and dragging the slider to the right to scale my images up larger or smaller by dragging it to the left.